Is it possible to revolutionize kidney disease treatment and redefine conventional care? Our next guest, John Erbey, is doing just that as the founder and CEO of Rovios. With over 25 years of pioneering experience in the medical field, John brings a unique blend of analytical rigor, physiological insight, and deep understanding of customer needs, which has driven groundbreaking advancements across the medical device and pharmaceutical sectors. Inspired by personal experiences with kidney disease in his family, John is on a mission to transform patient lives. Join us as we explore how Rovios is reshaping kidney health management, potentially saving billions in healthcare costs, and paving the way for a future where kidney function can be sustained and enhanced. Let's go.
Welcome to Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli, where we highlight and speak with the innovators, the game changers, and the pioneers who are deeply passionate and relentless in solving the problems our world is facing today. This is your opportunity to connect with and learn from these leaders and to support them on their mission. Perhaps they will soon be hearing your story as well. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you on this journey with us.
Hi, John. A warm welcome to our podcast today.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, given your visionary leadership and over 25 years of pioneering experience in the medical field, which led you to revolutionize kidney disease treatment through innovations like the groundbreaking Juxtaflow renal assist device at Rovios, I'm eager to have this discussion today. But before we dive in, a bit of housekeeping. While listening to any of our episodes, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast. You will automatically receive episode updates in your podcast player. Simply search Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli in your favorite podcast player, or hit the follow button on our website at passionatepioneers.com. Lastly, please visit the bottom of the episode notes to connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter to further the conversations occurring on this podcast. All right, John, it's almost time for our community to learn how you and the Rovios team are redefining conventional kidney care. But first, what's that one piece of advice that you would give to others who are passionate about reimagining the health of our world?
Mike, I'm not sure this qualifies as advice or not, but it certainly has helped ground me on my latest adventure, and that's get comfortable being uncomfortable. True innovation requires disruptive or non-obvious thinking. So if an idea is truly non-obvious, then there are a lot of people who may not understand the idea initially. And some may even think you're crazy. That's okay. Actually, two of the key standards for patents, which is a key currency we use in the entrepreneurial world, are novelty and non-obviousness. So the first 100 physicians that we spoke to about our idea had almost the identical response. That's crazy. I never would have thought of it. Fast forward 9 years, I know we're starting to make some progress because it's now almost an obvious conversation.
Wow, that is really, really powerful, John. And has that been something that you've kind of led in your career? We're going to talk about it after the commercial break, kind of what led you up to, founding Rovios, launching the company. But is that a piece of advice that you've kind of been living with throughout your journey of revolutionizing healthcare, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable? Because I think it's a powerful piece of advice, especially today, where things are moving so fast on the innovation front and a lot of change happening, whether we like it or not. Things are changing rapidly. Is this something that has been part of your journey through healthcare and through innovation for quite some time?
I think it's been there, but it's definitely become more front and center as time goes by. Getting to the big chair and having the responsibility makes you really recognize the importance of keeping things moving forward.
And how is that being also expressed, this notion of getting, comfortable with the uncomfortable? How is that being expressed throughout the entire organization, not just from the chair or the CEO? Is that something that you're helping your team members and your colleagues embrace across the organization as well?
I certainly hope so. We have a small group. There's only 10 of us in the company. And so we have, routine communication with each other. And, this is a roller coaster like every other startup. And the idea is that we've each got each other's back. So
absolutely love it. And we are definitely going to talk about having each other's back, that team that is working extremely hard right now around building the company that is Rovios. We're going to talk about how it all came to be, where the ideas came from, and much more after we get back from thanking our community champion sponsor. Healthcare faces a paradox that echoes through generations. While the current practices that help heal patients today are vital, it is crucial to evaluate them through an environmental lens. OSHA's Responsible for Tomorrow initiative is a collection of interviews featuring influential thought leaders and industry experts like you who share their sustainability strategies, insights, and provide valuable perspectives from diverse industries to inspire innovation within the healthcare sector. Oster invites you to join this journey. Want to share your sustainability story? Oster is actively looking for partners to highlight the important and inspiring work being done around the globe. Check out Oster's Responsible for Tomorrow initiative and series at oster.com. That's OSSUR.com. Or visit the episode notes and click on their link. Together, and with Oster helping lead the way, let's all be responsible for tomorrow. All right, we're back with John Erbey, CEO of Roivios. John, thank you so much, and thank you for setting the stage on the front end. Could not agree with you more. We have got to get uncomfortable and making sure we got to get ready to be uncomfortable. We got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's important now more than ever, as you know as well as I do, especially with the pandemic. Things have escalated and accelerated around innovation, the need for change. We know change is very hard, especially in a very risk-averse environment that is healthcare, understandably so at times. I always like to throw that in there. But things are moving at a greater and greater clip in regards to innovation, technology, disruption, et cetera. We got to be really comfortable with that uncomfort that is around us. Now, let's talk about that as well and how that applies to the organization that is Roivios. You guys now are over 9 years deep into this company. It's amazing to be able to even just get past year 1, 2, and 3, as you know. So we're going to talk about that journey, how it all came to be, where you guys are today, where you see things heading tomorrow. And of course, John, how our amazing community rallied around this podcast can be helping you out as well. But first, John, take us back. How did this all come to be? What were the aha moments? Take us behind the scenes a bit of how this company, Roivios, came to be in the first place.
Yeah, so the story actually has been a part of my career, even all the way back into grad school. So I was an epidemiologist by training. And in each step along the way, dialysis was sort of that black hole that you didn't want to go to. Studying the epidemiology of diabetes complications, it was the end of the road for a lot of patients. In drug safety, in the pharma industry, it was the event that you needed to be able to avoid and in order to maintain a safe profile for your product. As I moved through, I moved from the R&D side of the house into the commercial side of the house. And my last role before starting this company was to launch CardioMEMS, a heart failure sensor for medical device company St. Jude Medical, which is now part of Abbott. Even in that world, the heart failure world, watching physicians use the output of this sensor to guide their dialysis session timing really was that aha moment of, okay, there's got to be a better way to manage these patients. Serendipity is a beautiful thing. Stumbled upon a very intriguing idea. Took me about 6 months to a year to convince myself no one had tried it and failed first. And then I made the jump in, and then, as they say, the rest is history.
And John, throughout your career, did you ever think that you were going to launch your own company, launch your own products, be in a situation where you're going to go and test drive an idea you had? Because I know a lot of folks that are tuning in are thinking about launching their own companies as well. Did you have that on the roadmap? What was that experience like? And then we'll, of course, get back to talking about the company, but on a personal level, what was that experience like for you?
No, I had really no intention of starting my own company. And it's interesting because my uncle has started 6 companies that have gone public on the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. So it has been there in sort of the family ethos for decades. And it always seemed like it was too big of a challenge, too unwielding to try to conquer. But then when the simple idea comes across the desk, that's really where sort of the skill set and the opportunity match up. And it was time to just give it a shot.
And let's stay there for a moment, and then we'll get into who Roivios is, what you guys are building. You said earlier that I think is really important, especially for our aspiring entrepreneurs. You went out there and you talked to hundreds of doctors and asked, like, is this a problem? And you saw some kind of repetitive responses back to it. What was that like, and how important was doing that groundwork, right? That's a lot of tough sledding, but how important of doing that groundwork was in regards to where you now are today as a company? How important were those key moments early on?
Absolutely instrumental, not only in terms of clarifying what the problem was, because there are a lot of different problems within kidney disease that don't necessarily all lead to the same solution. So being able to understand just how powerful the problem is for each of the different ways clinicians look at it, and then really just getting out into the world. At the end of the day, the voice of the customer, if they don't buy into it, it's never going to go anywhere. And that's advice that I had been given, even before starting my own company, that you really have to understand your customer, both in the marketing aspect and the strategic development component to it. It really is what makes good companies great.
Well, let's talk about those good companies turning into great. Again, been around for over 9 years, getting after it, building this company step by step, block by block. John, let's talk about the company. Who is Rovios?
So we're a group of individuals that have been really self-selected for having that mission of making sure the kidney is the priority for what we're doing. I mean, we believe we have a vision that if the kidney is alive, the patients will thrive. It's unbelievable how important the kidney's function is to the health of the body. It's one of the few spaces in healthcare where there's literally a linear relationship between the degree of function and the cost associated with managing those patients. So that inverse relationship is if you start losing kidney function, you cost your health insurer, you cost your hospital more money every single year. And to the point where CKD patients who have 3/4 status, so they're advanced CKD, but they're not end stage, they cost the US about $250 billion in just inpatient admissions. This is one of the biggest problems out there.
In regards to that, obviously just that alone in regards to that $250 billion, but can you also describe what else does that do to our health system writ large? Are we talking about downstream comorbidities, et cetera? What does this look like even beyond just that $250 billion that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so patients with CKD, they're more likely to see the ER. They're more likely to be admitted. They're more likely to require surgery. And in each of those instances, when they're in the institution for each of those, they're less likely to survive without an impairment. So it becomes this downward spiral. You know, each year there are 126,000 people who start dialysis. About 76,000 of them start dialysis from an ICU visit. But what most people don't realize is more people die before they're healthy enough to qualify for dialysis than make it to dialysis. That really gives you a sense of just how important the kidney is to keeping the overall body healthy.
That's unbelievable. That is some powerful setting the stage, if you will, John. So describe a bit to our community and our audience that may be learning about this for the first time. What areas are you guys going after to innovate this space, to really bring in and address, this huge crisis that is, CKD, probably not just here domestically, but of course a global issue, but of course here in the United States, that is a huge problem. How are you guys going about solving it?
So we've recognized it is a sort of boil the ocean kind of a problem. So to manage that, we have laser focused in on our first use case, which will be patients with renal impairment undergoing a cardiac surgery. So they have to be on the heart-lung machine. These are individuals that they have a 50-50 chance of having a kidney injury during the surgery. They have a high single-digit mortality and a high single-digit need for dialysis. These are really sick patients. And what we're finding is that this is an opportunity for us to come in, and it's that equation of susceptibility plus stress yields bad outcome. So the susceptibility being renal impairment, the stress being the surgical procedure, leading to those poor outcomes. What we're trying to do is sustain and enhance the kidney, sort of be the impella for the kidney during those stressful periods so that we can keep the patient where they're functioning after the surgery so they can recover faster, get out of the hospital faster, and be less likely to crash into dialysis.
Well, John, thank you for sharing that and setting the stage a bit. And so if you think about a downstream, advancement of these technologies, what you guys are bringing to bear, where do you see the opportunity in regards to helping create some, efficiencies or creating some dynamics in the marketplace that are going to be not only healing for the patient, but of course, on the financial side, we always have to think about that. This is a very expensive industry, as you know. How does this help ease the burden of some of the things that we already talked about earlier on as well?
Well, I mean, that's easy. By starting with the patients who are highest risk, who are in a higher level of care, ICU, a surgical ICU, time is money. At the end of the day, they're occupying a bed. Those institutions get one check, whether they're in for 1 day or 15 days, it doesn't really matter. And ultimately, the cost of caring for them is they're on a higher level of nursing support. So it's a 2 patients to a nurse as opposed to a 4-to-1 and a step down unit or even higher than that ratio if you're out on the main floor. So the faster we can get patients out of critical care, the better. And the kidney is actually supposed to play that role. It's supposed to help be part of that healing process. And the more we can get it to do its job, just get out of its way, really, instead of trying to outthink it.
And then also, let's go now take a little bit to that kind of future state, if you will, in regards to this macro notion of CKD. It's a huge cost driver for our industry, of course, as we already discussed. But John, you mentioned that this is a boil the ocean type of paradigm that we're discussing here, and this is going to be kind of your first entry into the marketplace. Where do you see things heading as well, more not just for the industry at large, but also for Roivios? Where do you see things years to come as well beyond just this first entry point?
So JuxtaFlow is a technology that is really useful inside the institution. We'll start in cardiothoracic ICU, and we'll spread from there into the general surgery ICU and then over to the medical ICU. We have big, hairy goals to get outside of the hospital, and those require different projects. So we'll use the revenue from the first project to fund the development of a wearable that you can leave the hospital with. And our big, hairy goal is the pacemaker for the kidney. So a fully implanted system, much like the pacemaker for the heart, but this would deliver therapy 24/7, 365, and sort of envision, this is a vision, obviously future state, but what we see is that, you've been in the hospital 2 or 3 times in the last year. The reason you're in the hospital is your kidneys aren't doing their job well enough. Let's give you this piece of technology that allows your kidneys, supports their function so that they don't decline, you don't progress to end-stage renal disease, and you don't keep spending time coming back to the hospital.
What an exciting future state. And of course, I'm sure, again, you did mention it is still kind of in a visionary state, but is this also a reaction to what you're hearing, from clinicians, from the market itself, to be able to bring that care at home, right? We're seeing that kind of happening on the macro trends. What are you hearing from those end users on what you're envisioning as that future state for the company? I got to imagine they're pretty excited about the vision that you just outlined here on the podcast.
Well, it makes sense. Patients do better when they're not laying in a bed. So the faster you can get them out and get them moving, that's good for them. And, if this is a way to provide that transitional care, that they're still getting therapy outside of the hospital, that's in the best interests of physicians and hospitals and patients.
Very exciting indeed. Well, let's come back now to a little bit of a current state and discuss, right now how our community, filled with amazing innovators and folks that are passionate about moving healthcare forward, rallied around this podcast, wanting to work with our guests, just like yourself. John, what's one problem, need, or question that you have that our community can be helping you with?
At Erbey, we believe the kidney is an amazing organ that needs to be protected during times of acute stress. We'd appreciate the listeners who agree with our why to help us champion the cause. Join us via advocacy, investment, or simply connecting to us on social media. We are currently raising a round of investment to help us execute what we believe is the last trial needed to get to the market.
And John, in order to be able to have those conversations, to learn more, to be involved, how does the community get a hold of you? You did mention some contact points, but other ways, websites, LinkedIn, or other ways, how do they get a hold of you, John?
The 2 easiest ways are through our website, roivios.com, or via LinkedIn, where we have a presence both for Roivios and for the team members.
Easy enough. And for our listening community, we'll have all of those contact points listed in the episode notes. So simply scroll on down in your favorite podcast player where you're listening to this episode to get those contact points, or you could head over to our free global online community at passionatepioneers.com. There will be a post for this episode and those contact points for John and the team, as well as an area to leave some comments, feedback, suggestions, or otherwise, again, over at passionatepioneers.com. John, very exciting with where you guys are today and, of course, where the organization is heading into the future. But before we get out of here and let you get back to causing all that good trouble with you and your team members and all the wonderful work you guys putting together at Roivios, we have a fill in the blank for you. I'm a passionate pioneer because?
I'm a passionate pioneer because I believe there's no better feeling than having the capability to change a critical moment in a patient's care journey to change their future.
Absolutely love it. And you guys are well on your way to doing that. John, thank you for the pit stop today, coming by, spending time with our community, sharing everything all the good things happening in your camp and where you guys are going to tomorrow as well, so we can be involved in that journey. So again, John, thank you for taking time to be with us. We appreciate it, and we are wishing you nothing but the best. Thank you, John.
Thanks so much, Mike. It's been a great time.
Thank you for joining us today on Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. We'd love to hear your feedback about the podcast so we can continue to improve this community and to further support the pioneers being featured. Lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and invite your friends and colleagues to join us. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you back with us during our next episode.